Welcome back to GOMTV's broadcast of the OSL, the WCS Korea Premier League. I am Wolf, with me is Keller. We're filling in, as mentioned before, for Tastosis. And we have one best of three left, if, that is, we don't have a tiebreaker.
Exactly. We just saw Bomber take down Innovation with a 2-0, and now we are heading into the last best of three of the day, or into the last group. We have Group C left. We need to find out who's going to advance into the round of 8. And we have the match between Fantasy and Rain. And this match is going to determine who is going to advance, because the problem that we have here is that there is a potential three-way tie. In the format that we use right now, OGN has decided that the map score does not count. If not for that, we would definitely know who's going to advance after this match, no matter who wins it. But as it is, the map score is completely disregarded. And this means if Rain wins now against Fantasy, then we will have a three-way tie between First, Hiva, and Rain.
Yeah, and of course if that happens, then Rain will have his shot. So this is the most important moment for Rain, but even winning this isn't enough. He has to win this and then, of course, defeat the other players in the tiebreaker to get one of the top two spots.
And it leaves us with a little bit of a weird situation, since both of these players are teammates and Fantasy is already out of the group. He cannot possibly advance anymore. So for him, this game is very unimportant, and for Rain, everything is on the line here. Yeah. And as they are teammates, this is a situation that should never occur. This is exactly while at the GSL, if we have the up and down groups, where there's also round robin format, we play the team matches first.
How do you feel if the only thing you're fighting for is making it so that your teammate doesn't advance?
Yeah. So
there's going to be some emotions going through your head, most likely.
That's the only thing that Fantasy is fighting for right now. The only thing that he can accomplish if he wins right now is that he eliminates his own teammate.
So like, well, you didn't get through either. Yeah. How do you like that? Kind of a revenge situation, even though there's nothing to be revenging.
Exactly. So a lot of people have already been discussing this, and I don't expect that Fantasy is going to throw that game and suddenly just go for a right-click into his opponent's army. But even if he just doesn't simply specifically prepare for Rain, that would already be an advantage that Rain has. So as it is, this leaves us with a little bit of a sour taste in our mouth and is not what you usually want. So I personally do not know why this particular match was not the first match that was played in the group. That should have been the case, but unfortunately,
maybe just an oversight, I guess. You know, it's a pretty big one, but
unfortunately, it's the last game of the group, and unfortunately, it matters.
Yeah, it matters a lot. So this is going to be one of those games, I think, for Fantasy, where he, might do what Lucero did earlier and pull a Terran 6 pull. He might do some crazy proxy builds or something that you just wouldn't expect to see, because for him this is meaningless. He doesn't want to waste his practice time practicing for this when he has other leagues like Pro League, for example, to practice for.
If Rain takes the game, then we have the three-way tie, and from that point on we will proceed to go into best of ones between First, Hiva, and Rain, up to the point where one player loses 2 maps. So that we know who is going to advance. I actually don't know 100% still if the ranks matter in those groups, or if it's just going to be a random draw between the 8 players that advance. So if the ranks matter, then maybe we even have to go through the entire series and find out who would finish first and who would finish second. But right now, of course, the match that is more important is the match at hand between Rain and Fantasy.
Yeah, Rain versus Fantasy, the first one, the first step that Rain has to take at getting to the round of 8. A very good Pro player, especially in this matchup. And Wings of Liberty, he was considered to be the best Kessler player. He switched over from the first wave of Kessler players to switch over to Starcraft 2 from Brood War. His storms are incredible. His holds on maps like Cloud Kingdom and Daybreak back in the day against Terran pushes were really, really good, especially his ability to hold that SCV pull off of 2 or 3 bases that we saw Terrans do on 2-2.
Well, we're going to head into the next match right away. Let's see what Fantasy can do here. As mentioned already, he is out of the tournament. He won a single map. He lost his series against First with an 0-2, and then later on he lost against Hiva. He took 1 map of Hiva, but that was it. So he is out. He cannot possibly advance anymore. Rain, he already lost in the group against First. He won against Hiva though, so this is the last game that he has to play, and if he defeats Fantasy, he will be on 2 wins and 1 loss, the same score that Hiva and First have, and because of the situation in the group, we would have that 3-way tie.
Yeah, that's true. So just keep that in mind. This game only changes things if Fantasy loses, and it's a best of 3 still. So Rain has to take 2 maps here and then win a tiebreaker, make sure he's not one of the players to lose twice.
Yep. And well, as it is, if map score would be an issue here, then Rain would have to take the game with a 2-0, not with a 2-1. But as map score is disregarded, we only need him to win to have the tiebreak situation.
And here are his stats so far. He's 450 points in WCS. He has overall in his career, including Wings of Liberty, a 62.9% win ratio in matches. And you can see to get here, he beat Keen and Bomber in the round of 32. Round of 16 with our round robin format. He won against Taiba, but lost against First.
You know, I feel actually the biggest loser in this particular scenario is definitely Fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Because he is in such an annoying spot.
How awkward must he feel?
Yeah, the thing is, like, he has to kind of give his best, because if anyone suspects that he throws the game against Rain because of the situation that we have, no, it's not only about the ban, it's about the reputation is on the line. And even if he gives his best and, you know, he just runs into a build order loss, for example, then everyone
will accuse him.
Yeah, exactly. People will immediately accuse him. If he actually thinks, okay, against Fantasy, the best thing that I can do right now is I go for a very aggressive build, or I go for a very greedy build, and Rain suddenly just counters him, then Fantasy will be a loser either way, because everyone is going to say, yeah, you threw that game. And he's like, no, like, I thought that was the best strategy for me. Yeah. So he must be very annoyed about the situation right now. And for Rain, it's kind of the same.
That's actually like such a good point. No matter what, he loses. Even if he wins, he still loses. I mean, there's nothing good for him about this situation. Like, not even a little bit. If he wins the 2-0, he's like, well, I beat my teammate and prevented him from going to the next round, and I don't get anything out of it. I mean, maybe my reputation that I can beat Pro players is good.
I'm really interested to see those games, but I feel for Fantasy this is a really awkward situation, because whatever he does, I don't know, he can't win here.
No.
If we have a very intense series and back and forth, then I feel people will be okay with it. But depending on the outcome here, especially the Korean fans in the past have been very, very critical with players' performances. Choya playing a very aggressive strategy in the preseason of the GSTL in Heart of the Swarm was criticized for winning his game the way he did. And now we are in a match that even counts, that is like so much more important than the preseason was. Yep. So both of them are smiling here, but I feel this is a very weird spot where they are in.
Yeah, this is, you pretty much covered everything. It's awkward for Fantasy, very much so.
Well, we're jumping into the game right now. This is the potentially last best of 3 of the day here at the WCS Premier League. Fantasy is going up against his teammate Rain, and we'll find out who is going to advance out of Group C today.
Just some of Fantasy's results here. The WCS StarLeague and the AUCTION ALLKill StarLeague. They're both winners of different StarLeagues. They're both OSL champions.
Starting to the top right, we have the Terran player starting in red here. It is
Master SK Telecom T1
did win the OSL in 2010 at Starcraft 1. WCS OSL, not an error. That's an energy drink company.
Starting to the bottom left, we have his opponent and teammate.
Grandmaster SK Telecom T1 Ray.
He won the only other OSL that was in Starcraft 2.
So just to recapitalize everything once again shortly for all the people who tune in for the VODs. We are currently in Group C. This is the last game of Group C. First, Hiva and Rain could potentially end up in a tiebreaker if Rain takes the series against Fantasy here. Fantasy is already out of the group. A win would not help him at all. It's a very unfortunate situation since both of them are teammates. A match that should have been played in a round of robin format as the first game is for some reason the last game, and unfortunately it counts. So both are in a very weird position here. And well, we are either going to end up in a tiebreaker right now, or if Fantasy takes down his teammate and eliminates Rain's chances to advance to the round of 8, then this will be the last best of 3 of the day.
Yep. So we have a gas build here from Fantasy. Going to be aggressive from the start. Most likely just a Reaper Scout to begin things, but we could see a Marine Widowmine drop to follow things up. And Rain, of course, going to scout right away. Not going to waste any time with this. Takes his gas home as well. This is, one of our more unique maps made to look like Guangali Beach, and it does. The resemblance is uncanny. Very small map, though, and the rush distance is quite small as well.
Yeah, the scout for Rain is now moving into the top right and trying to find out what exactly Fantasy is doing here. We don't have any overly aggressive builds just yet. We don't see any proxies. This is something that could have happened. Remember the game that we had between Kangho and Maru earlier? It was more of a show game. since both players were already well aware of which position they would have at the end of the day in the group. So we had very interesting strategies, very early pulls by Kango, for example. Nothing like this is going on in the game that we have between the two teammates. We have just opening, typical for a Terran player here, and going into Reactor now.
Yeah, the Reactor coming down here. Very standard opening. He shows it to Rain, and this means that Fantasy will likely just expand safely behind this. He is continuing to mine all of these gas, though. So, you know, usually there's one of two follow-ups. One is to just make a factory and then get your starport out and do a marine drop. Well, there's also this one. This is, I guess, the third one, which is very rare, but sometimes seen, which is a double Reaper, which is what we're going to see. So everything else I was saying is no longer relevant.
Yeah, double Reaper opening, and against Protoss, this can actually do quite a lot of damage if you don't have the Mothership Core. The Mothership Core is going to end that very early, but if you go into the double Reaper, you can take down the initial Zealot, and you might also be able to sneak in and do a bit more damage to the probes themselves.
Yeah. There's the CC going down behind this. So he's going to try to take map control with this. If you look at the barracks, so you guys can't see it, but I can. I can see what's cubed behind this. It's 2 Marines, so he's not going to go into more than 2 Reapers, which is safe, considering that by the time he gets there, the Mothership Core will already be out, and it's going to be really easy for him to defend any further Reapers, especially once the Stalkers start to come out too.
Yeah, Reapers now going straight to the bottom left. The expansion is being built at the mineral line, and in the main base, the Mothership Core is still sitting tight and tries to... Yeah, actually, he's just waiting for those Reapers, but they are jumping in a little bit further down, trying to go into the mineral line and take down a couple of Harvesters, but with the Stalker, it's already put to an end.
Yep. He sees the Nexus, splits the Reapers in 2 different directions. He wants to verify that there's no hidden Stargate or you know, hidden Twilight Council or anything like that. Hidden Stargate, the most common right now in Heart of the Swarm, to hide. And that's why he sends the Reapers to the north and the south, because he doesn't want to find a surprise Oracle in his main base, because you never... And actually in StarCraft 2 you don't like surprises.
Yeah, you don't. And then the thing is, like, we saw exactly that build with the hidden Stargate on this map several times already. There are a couple of spots where you can place down the pylon, and then of course the Stargate trying to get that Oracle in.
He's going for Hellions here. We could actually see a mech-oriented composition coming out from Fantasy. The fact that he reactors these Hellions out is not indicative of mech necessarily, but it is the starting point.
Fireworks going down accompanying this Reaper.
Yeah,
must be a hero.
The Reaper is actually totally uninterested in fireworks.
Additional gateways. 3 additional gateways coming up, and the Marauder also being produced here. The Stalker trying to make sure that the Reapers don't get any additional scouting information.
Yeah, the Immortal here with the additional gateways makes it look like Rain may try to go for a bust play here.
Yeah, he's trying to deny scouting, but the Reapers get into the main base, and they will... Oh, nice.
Nice.
But he sees the robotics. What else does he see?
Oh, he's not going to see the Immortal come out, and that's really important.
Can you double check how many of the... Okay, there we go. He sees 1 additional gateway. He should have at least an idea of what's going on here.
Yeah.
And we have now the drop heading into the main base, or towards the main base of Rain.
This is designed to keep Rain in his base while Fantasy starts to build up his composition, while he's even taking a 3rd base with this. The Hellions, this is not going for my composition, but the Hellions here are designed just to, hopefully, when Rain goes into the main base to defend that drop, come into the back and do damage at the middle line. But actually, Rain is moving out. This could be bad for him because not only the drop in the main, but the Hellions coming in. He's going to have to turn around. This really hurts his push.
Here comes the drop in the main base, and those Hellions are still in a good position, but Rain is just walking across the map with his units. He only puts his Mothership Core back. That's the only thing, and that is not going to help him at all. Well, he can take the Photon Cannon, but after that, I don't know.
Yeah. After that, I don't know either. He's actually going to lose a lot of probes here. The Marines with their healing power just kind of ignoring it.
Yeah, the Marines are just going to move in, and we still have those Hellions there, but Rain is moving across the map. The Mothership Core is not going to be too helpful. There's a surround on a Stalker.
He has nothing at home. I mean, literally nothing. Doesn't have bunkers, doesn't have anything to put into bunkers. He's got nothing. Yeah. Nada, zilch, zip, and here come the units up the ramp.
Nada isn't here.
Yeah, he retired. He was on a interview show I saw him just recently, though.
The Marines are not waiting for the Photon Overcharge to go, so they're not moving into the main base anymore. Fantasy doesn't have anything here. He loses the
He brings some Hellions back with
He's force
fielded it out.
He's in the main base, and to be honest, he can just take everything down.
Yeah. This looks game-ending with the second force field there. The pylon is going to finish. He blocks some of the SCVs from surrounding there. and there's just too much damage output. He sends the Marines that were attacking
Pilot
from
is
home.
done. The pilot is done. The ground force is already being attacked by the rest of the warp-ins. And we have 37 supply against 71. Those Marauders are still in a good spot. The SCVs are just clumped up, and it looks like Rain is going to take game 1 easy peasy against Fantasy.
Yeah, super easy win here for him. GG. The drop in the main base was deflected by the Mothership Core, and his Hellions were denied as well. He didn't get to do any damage with those. It looks like he kind of forgot about them. I feel like if he had run the Hellions in right away, could have done a ton of damage there.
Yeah, exactly. I was surprised that he didn't use those Hellions at the beginning, and also the Marines, I thought he would try to just bring them over to the natural, or maybe even just hide them in the main base and then move in again. There were no units there. It was only the photon overcharge. You can wait that out.
He could also run to a different part of the main base where the overcharge doesn't reach and start to pick off gateways there. Little things he just didn't do in that game that gave Rain the ability to attack. It was almost like a builder win in some ways, because he had, with the composition he went for, he put all of his units that he could fight with into medevacs and into run-bys, and then he had nothing at home while he's trying to get that production up. The idea with this build is to do economic damage and keep the Protoss back while you build up your economy, and then you kind of even things out with your tech.
As it is, easy win for Rain. Takes it. No problem whatsoever here. Moves on with his push. Has the force field. It's at the bottom of the ramp. Blocks everything out. Rain in the 1-0 lead. A kill on wastes is map number 2. And all Rain has to do to bring us into a tiebreaker with Hiva himself and first is to win another map.
Acheron Wastes, a great map for Blink Stalker aggression, also good for Oracle play, and even good for just the same type of build that we saw in game number 1. And Rain has shown great, excellent, really strong macro games in the past, and since he opened with an aggressive strategy in game 1, would not be surprised to see him actually just try to go for that late game, to go for the Storm as quickly as possible, and play straight up against Fantasy here.
Yeah.
That's what I would expect.
It's just a very weird situation.
It is. Acheron Waste is a map where the reason why I talk about Blink Stalkers being so good here is because there's so many different ways you can blink. You can blink from the third base in, you can blink from the natural in. If you can also blink behind the minerals in the natural, and then while the Terran comes to react there, you blink again into the main base. So you have to have high ground vision, but that's what the Mothership Core is for.
We've seen that so many times, that Blink Stalker build is really strong, especially when unscouted. You might lose that game immediately. Rain is now in the lobby as well. I feel really sorry for both of them.
Yeah.
No matter how that series ends, it's going to be a very awkward best of 3.
Yeah.
And yeah, a situation like this should not happen. It did. Rain now ahead with the 1-0, and of course also at the studio present we have Hiva and First, because they might have to play. If we go into the tiebreaker, then we have best of 1 matches between the 3 players until it's determined who is going to advance and who is dropping out of the 3 of them.
Right now Hiva and First are crossing their fingers under the table and playing with voodoo dolls and actually getting their fortunes read, because they want this to go the way that nobody's expecting it to go, with Fantasy taking in 2 more wins in a row.
They are not happy about this situation either.
No.
Rain against Fantasy. Game 2 is going to come up in just a few seconds. A kill on waste, as mentioned before, is going to be map number 2. Currently, we have Rain in the lead with a 1-0 after the win on Guangali Beach. And yeah, depending on who takes the next game, we might already head into the tie. Rain is smiling here, very confident that he will take the series.
Yeah. You know, a lot of talk about this situation, in fact, in the chat. Jokes going on. I'm sure, like, not only in the lobby chat, I'm talking right now on threads all over the internet, on IRC chats, on Twitch chats. But can Rain take the easy 2-0? Is he going to get game number 2 on Acheron? Fantasy looking a little bit stressed out, as I would be if I were in his situation.
A situation like this is inexcusable. You cannot not start a round-robin system with a team match if you have 2 players on the same team. It's like, I have no words for that.
Well,
the players are the losers in this scenario. We are going